Hello everyone from Senior Vitality. This is Jannell from Community Tech Network and welcome back to our channel. Today I will be showing you some things about internet safety. Now, why are we talking about this now? Well, we had just learned how to use the Safari browser, and as you guys look for different web results, I want you guys to be aware of different things to protect, and also I want to give you some tips and examples. As you can see, right now I am presenting on my laptop. But when it comes to some of the examples that I want to show you, I will pull out my iPad and put it on the front here so that you guys can see it. Let's get started. So what do we need to protect when we go online? Well, it's the same thing that you would protect out there in the physical world. It would be your date of birth, address, credit card number, social security number, bank accounts, those kinds of information, right? So these are the same things that we need to protect when we're going online, or be very careful about using or giving before we actually go ahead and hit that submit button when we create something like an account or open up some documented information that's online through some portal, things like that. So, what are the risks then if we do not protect these things? It would be identity theft, damage of reputation, a malware attack, and I'll explain what a malware is, a sale of personal information, theft of money. Those are just some of the examples of what happens when we don't take care of the things that we need to protect. So here's some things that you need to be aware of that exist in order to fully understand what the risks are or how they come about. So first, you need to know what a hacker is. A hacker is a person who uses computers to gain unauthorized access to data. And hackers use a variety of techniques. Something that you'll need to be aware of is malware, which I mentioned earlier. But before I explain malware, you need to know what software is. Software is the base system that makes the computer work. So think of it like a program. In our case, we have an operating system called iOS for the Apple. But you would also have some other kinds of software like apps that do things like games or calendars, spreadsheets, taxes, those kinds of things. So that's software. Another thing is phishing, and that's with a PH, phishing. It's a malicious attempt, typically via email, to gain information like passwords or financial information, so credit cards or bank numbers, by pretending to be a trustworthy company or person. It's very similar to scams. So now that we know what software is and phishing is, and how phishing is actually one of the ways in which a hacker tries to get your data, and you could also learn about malware. So malware stands for malicious software. So that's why we had to know what software was first. And when people think of malware, they're actually thinking of something called a virus, right? They say, oh, beware of viruses for your device. But actually, a virus is only a type of malware. I'll read here. A virus is capable of copying itself and spreading to other computers. You might have also attributed some of these other characteristics to a virus when it was actually another kind of malware. So for example, spyware, that allows covert transmission of private information. A keylogger is a stem from spyware, and it logs your typing used to steal your passwords. Adware, which automatically delivers ads or pop-ups that are malicious. A Trojan disguised as a normal file to trick users into downloading. And there's also bots and ransomware. So you might have heard of all of these and attributed it just to viruses, but it's actually all a part of malware. So how does this all happen? How do we get infected with a malware? How does a hacker get our information? How do phishing things show up? So these are some of the common ways in which it comes. It's from downloading from websites that have either deliberately or accidentally been infected by one or more viruses. It's by tapping on a malicious advertisement that leads to a harmful website or automatically downloads malware. By following through the instructions of a pop-up or giving into scams. By downloading infected apps or connecting your device to a computer that is already infected. So for example, if you were connecting the two because you know how to synchronize them or load music or files onto the other. So fortunately, there's some good news to this. Apple products are very secure and do not require antivirus software. There are no known viruses for the iPad so far. The iPad's operating system is designed to be compartmentalized and isolated, so it robs malware of most of the techniques it's used by hackers to infiltrate traditional computers or devices. So this is good. Your iPad does not need a form of software to fight off the viruses called antivirus software. And you're pretty much guarded by a lot of different things that hackers try to use. So this is good. And then also apps that we get onto our iPad need to be downloaded through the App Store. It's also another app that's on your iPad. And Apple checks all of these different apps within that store. So it's very rare for an app to contain malware. So that's also some good news. The best way for you to keep up this protection on the iPad is actually to keep it updated. So there'll be probably some more information on that. Now, though there might not be any Apple viruses, that doesn't mean that we're completely invulnerable here. There are other malware that can and does exist, and it is designed to trick you into infecting the device that you have or giving up personal information. There's a common scheme actually for iPads. It's a fake iOS crash report. It's basically when a website displays a type of notification that shows up in the middle of your screen called a pop-up. And it informs you that your operating system has crashed or the iPad has a virus, and it will give you instructions with how to fix it. And that's the goal. They want you to follow those instructions to provide personal information or get you to buy security software that you don't need or doesn't work. So that's an example of what it would look like. It would show up on your iPad screen, something like this. And it says, due to a third-party application in your phone, iOS is crashed. Contact support for immediate fix. And then it gives you a number and it says it's toll-free. And as I read it, I noticed there was some errors there. It capitalized the wrong things. It even put the right punctuation marks there. So it looks very unprofessional. Notice also, I just want to point this out here because I'm about to explain it. It has HTTP, right? It's missing something called HTTPS on this web link. More about that. And then if you hit OK, then, it would either take you to the website that's, the scam, or it would actually just begin to try to download something onto your iPad. I don't actually know the full details about it, but I'll explain a bit more about what to do if you're stuck on something like this. So, but how did I know? Besides, some of the things I just mentioned, how did I know that that was actually a scam? Well, a sign of a scam is that it offers money or a prize, or it gives you some extreme urgent request, right? So if we go back, the urgent request is that your Apple has suddenly crashed. If it crashed, I don't even think that you would receive a notification like this if it actually did crash. But anyway, that's the urgent situation. Sometimes it would have like a crisis or emergency. It would set a time limit or a countdown, or it would even have a threat or accusation. So those are the signs of scams. So first off, how would you even, get to some of these tricks? It's by going on a bad website. Let's take a step back and talk about websites exactly. So what are they again? Well, they all have information on it. And you got there by going to a web address, right? So just for a reminder, a web address looks like this. www.something there, and I literally put that. I'm sorry if that's an actual website. I don't know if it is. And then it ends with a domain, .com, .org, .net. Well, they also have something like this in front, HTTP or HTTPS. So this is an example. You'll have HTTPS : and then the web address, right? So if you are looking at a website, right, and along the top, this is a clip that I got from our Safari browser, along the top where you would put in the web address. If it says HTTP on it, or it does not have this lock symbol, that means it has HTTP. Do not put any information into that website. It's okay to read it and be on it, but don't put any information in there. Now, if it has a lock or it has HTTPS, the S stands for secure. And that means you can put that information onto that website. It means that the website is encrypted. It will protect the information that you put on there. Well, now you're probably confused here. You're saying, well, I don't even see a www there. I don't see HTTPS. Remember, if you tap on that address, like shows up along the top of your Safari browser, then it will reveal this. It will reveal the full web address, and it will probably have HTTP or HTTPS. But if you don't remember that, and if you just see a lock there, that means it has HTTPS in it. The lock stands for that. If you look up here and it has no lock, then it's just saying that it has HTTP. And therefore, you should not put any information into that website. Okay? So now, let's go on to Safari on the iPad, just so that I can make this a bit more clear. So I'm going to pull up my iPad very carefully over my laptop. Okay. It's a bit slanted there, but I think you should be able to see. So I'm going on Safari. Okay. And on the top, just as we did before, I looked up the Curry Senior Center. I hit go. And here I am on Google. And I'm looking through to see the correct Curry Senior Center website, right? And this is what we typically do, right? We go through Google and we probably scroll up to just try to find and tap on any of these blue links for information to go to a specific website. I go there, that's the Curry Senior Center one. And then along the top, I see the lock, so that means it has HTTPS. And if I tapped it, it would reveal the full web address. And it has HTTPS there on the top left, right there. Now, say I was still looking through, right? I need to be also aware if any of these look like scams, and none of these do. But let me explain a bit more about that here. There are harmful websites out there. You have to look carefully before you decide to click on a website's address. So, as I showed you on the iPad as I was looking through, if I saw something like this, or like this, I just made these up. But if I saw something like this, it has clear signs of scam. It's offering free money or a prize, or it's giving you a sense of urgency to click here right away. Don't lose out. Click now. Sometimes they even say this is not a scam when it is. So if you ever see any of these kinds of things, listed on your iPad here, do not click on it. Just pass it by, ignore it, don't give it any attention. It's those websites that tend to be malicious, and you could get maybe something like, the iOS crash report that I mentioned earlier, or many, many kinds of pop-ups and advertisements that might be malicious and, lead you into a trap. So avoid these. Let's talk a bit about pop-ups and advertisements. So, though advertisements often help us find other interesting sites and some deals, sometimes they are malicious. Sometimes. If you click on a malicious pop-up or ad by accident, you will face the risk of going to a fake website that looks trustworthy, or you might accidentally activate it so that it downloads a virus or another kind of malware. Typically, advertisements that are malicious tend to, and sometimes they don't always, so that's the tricky thing, but sometimes they have like these kind of images here. It will alert you to click it and start now, or it'll say click here, thinking that, the activity that I wanted to do on this website will start if I go there. But no, it's actually an advertisement. And who knows what would happen if you actually touch it. This is an example of, a pop-up. It might not exactly look like this, but it would say something like with very scam kind of language. Congratulations, you won. Click on the yes before time runs out, right? And so those are just some examples. If a website has too many of those, don't touch them, right? Don't touch them. Don't even try to close the different advertisements on there. And if it even has too many ads so that it's not even useful to be on the site anymore, you should get out of there. I'll show you a bit about how to get out in a second, but if you know how, just know to, close it out or back out of that. Another thing is to turn on Safari's pop-up blocker, which should already be activated. And, if you still have a lot of pop-ups that are blocked in the browser, you might have to download something called an ad blocker if you're interested in that. Honestly, as I'm using Safari on the iPad, I think it's doing a fairly good job at blocking different pop-ups. I've only seen advertisements, and that's fine. I just avoid touching them. I want to show you now how to make sure that it's activated. So I'm going to bring back my iPad here. Okay. I'm going to go to the settings. So I'm going to go home. Going to find my settings gear right there. And I need to update this iPad. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to scroll up until I find Safari on the left. And we'll tap it. Then the right-hand side should display all of the different options on Safari. And I'm going to scroll until the general section of it, right there, it says general. And I would go down and find block pop-ups. Now just make sure that it's green. Okay. So if it's not, it will look gray like that. And all you have to do is tap it, tap on the switch, and it will turn green. So that's how you block pop-ups on Safari. Okay, I'm going to continue with my presentation. So say you are stuck, right? You're on a website, it's bad, and you're about to panic, okay? What can you do? What should you do? First, just step away from the iPad for a moment, take a breather, okay? Second thing is to try to go back. The other thing you would then try to do is to open all of your windows and try to close them out. If those don't work, then you would try to quit Safari, go to the settings, and clear all of the data, clear all of the history. And then the last thing, if even that doesn't work, then I would, turn off the iPad and contact a Curry Senior Center staff or, ask for IT help. Let me just show you what I'm referring to when I say go back and to open your Windows and to quit Safari. So I'm going to bring back my iPad there. Okay. So what I mean by going back is, let's just pretend this is not a bad website that I'm going to, but let's pretend it is. And I see all kinds of things popping up on my screen and advertisements, and I'm scared of what's going on the screen, right? So you would first try to hit that back arrow on the top left. If that does not work, if it does not take you back to where you were, or if it even starts to look even crazier, here's another thing you can try. Go to the top right and hit those two overlapping squares. Those open up all of your different windows that you have open on Safari. I only have one, but if you had multiple ones or just one, then you would get rid of it by swiping to the left. Yes, swipe it to the left, right, and that will get rid of it. Say that didn't work. Say for some reason that thing is locked, it's not giving you access. Then the other thing to do is to quit Safari. Here's how you quit a Safari or any app that you're using on your iPad. Go to your home button, and you are going to tap it twice fast. So the rhythm is 1, 2. So I'm going to do that same rhythm on the home button, and I'm going to press it to that rhythm. 1, 2. It reveals anything that I have open, so all of the apps. So far, I just have 2. I'm going to put a little just side note here. It's not really related to internet safety, but if you have a bunch of different apps open here, be sure to swipe them up, right? Swipe it up, and it will clear out everything that was on, save you some battery, and make your iPad work probably a little faster. Okay, back to the internet safety topic. So, right, if you wanted to quit Safari because it's just not working, you find Safari then from this screen, and then you swipe it up. That quits Safari. Now the last thing is to then go to your settings. On the left-hand side, again, try to find Safari. There it is. Tap it. Then on the right-hand side, scroll up towards the bottom until you see this in blue. Clear history and website data. It will then warn you that it will remove history, something called cookies, and other browsing data. It's fine. It's worth hitting clear so that, hopefully everything that was going on with Safari and that was scaring you is gone. So then I would hit clear. Once that's done, go back home, go back to Safari, and it should be blank, right? That scary stuff that you saw, all of the different advertisements or things that were on there should be gone. I'm going to remove this. And so if even that does not work, that's when you should contact, either Philip or Angela from the Curry Senior Center staff, and they can help guide you. Okay, one more thing to look out for that we haven't quite talked about fully is phishing. Again, phishing is a malicious attempt, typically via email. Not always, but it's when they try to get your passwords or financial information by pretending to be a trustworthy company or person, right? So it's very similar to the scams, just like the iOS crash, right? But when it shows up in an email, it can be a bit tricky to identify. So what we want to look for when we see an email is look at who sent it, right? So some of us, we haven't fully gotten into email addresses yet. So, if this part will be confusing as I talk about email, I would come back to this part of the video after you've learned about email. But for those of you who have, when you go and open up an email, an electronic message that you have on the email app, you want to look at who the sender is. If it has some misspellings in there or weird names that are trying to look like a company and a bunch of numbers, that's a red flag. Also look to see if in the introductory part of the message, if it's a generic address like hello customers or hi clients or something like that, very generic, doesn't say your name, that's another red flag. If it has any attached files or links, that's another red flag. And then if it has a bunch of grammatical and spelling and alignment errors, and this just does not look cleaned up, that's another red flag. I'm going to show you some examples. All right, so this is an example of an email. The subject, of course, just like a scam, is going to have some urgency to it, right? Important, mandatory email, important changes to your account, right? The sender, it says it's supposedly Apple, but then look at it says no reply dash some numbers at console verify IDs /app.com. So maybe some of us wouldn't know whether or not that's kind of weird or not, but it's not that clean, right? But what might get you is that it says Apple support. But this I would just consider, okay, that's kind of a red flag. It looks kind of weird to me. That should be a clean looking email address. Another red flag here is what an attachment looks like. Looks like some little clipped image and an image of a paper or document. It says hello customers, so a very generic address. And here's the main part that I think gives it away. It gives you a sense of urgency about something that's happening to your account. It will ask you to verify information, to give you away like a password or, any financial information that you have. And it will also include a lot of grammatical errors. So, for example, we detect your account has been violated. Violated Apple's policy, so that's weird. It's suddenly indented over there. And then a space and a period, that's incorrect. Please check your account for further verification. It didn't even include a space between those two. Open the attachment, right? So it's telling you, it wants you to open that before 24 hours after we send out this message. And there's no space there. There's a capital letter here. It just looks very messy. Nowadays, a lot of these messages are trying to look as clean as possible, right? They would even better than this example, it would try to do its best to look like an official, for example, bank email, right? But we want to take a look at all aspects of it. Read it very carefully before touching anything like this link, or following through with what it's asking for. And so be very careful. Ultimately, if you are concerned that something is actually happening to you from whatever it's telling you, I would just contact the source directly, not through any information it gives here, but through what you know. Go in person or show up to the place that is contacting you. It could be a friend, it could be a family member that's trying to contact you and you're just not sure if they actually sent that message. I would take those steps and just avoid following through with this. If you know how to delete a message, which I will show you in an email lesson, delete the message. Okay, so then the last thing that I want to plug in is to always have secure passwords. You know, for us in the Senior Vitality Program, you have been given passwords already. But as you go on in the class, you might download different apps and then be required to make accounts within the app. When you make an account, you will be prompted to make a password. Keep that password secure because if it's secure, then it will help you to block all of the different kinds of hackers trying to guess or get into your account. You want it to be easy for you to remember, but hard for anyone to guess. So that would include putting numbers, lower and uppercase letters, and symbols. Mix them up, get very creative, and don't include anything that you should be protecting, like your birthday, your mother's last name, your name. You know, don't make it obvious like that. You should do your best to think of something creative, memorize it, write it down in a secure place. Here's an example. If you want your password to say, I love chocolate, right? That is a very simple thing, but you can make it even more stronger. This, you know, by mixing numbers and symbols that look like some of the words here, you can get a very strong password. So this is I love chocolate. It's very creative. You don't have to do something like that, but just make sure it includes numbers, lower and uppercase letters, and symbols, and that you're not using any information that you need to protect. All right, so that was all that I had for this presentation. I hope that was helpful. Should you have any more questions regarding internet safety or your iPad, please feel free to contact your instructor or any of the Curry Senior Center staff for some help. I hope that was good for you guys. Don't be scared. Continue to do your best to go online and use it safely. Use it wisely, but don't be too alarmed. Do what you can and just enjoy using the Safari browser so that you can find all kinds of information out there and continue to learn. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.